Welcome to my channel, dear listeners. How often do you go away with your family, your girlfriend, boyfriend, or friends for the weekend? Oh yes, I love that too. But the characters in the following stories, after what they've seen, might prefer to stay home instead. Enjoy watching.
Look, me and my buddies, we try to do one big trip every year. No wives, no kids, just a weekend to act like idiots in the woods. This year, we decided on the Boundary Waters. Canoeing, fishing, roughing it. Real men, you know? The plan was to drive up on Friday, rent our gear, and get a cabin for the first night near the entry point. Then we'd paddle in Saturday morning. The drive was fine. About 5 hours. We stopped for gas and beer at this little town called Silver Bay, last chance for supplies. It was one of those places that feels like it's dying. Empty storefronts, old trucks. We pulled into a gas station and Mike went in to pay. While he was inside, this old guy, looked like a farmer, all weathered skin and tired eyes, was filling up his truck next to us. He saw our canoe on the roof rack. He just shook his head. "You boys heading into the woods?" "Yeah," I said. "Boundary Waters. First time." He finished pumping and put the nozzle back. He didn't look at me. He looked at the tree line across the road. Was a couple came through here last year. Hikers. They went missing for 3 days. Found the man wandering down the fire road naked, covered in mud. Didn't know his own name. Never found the woman. My buddy Dave laughed from the back seat. "Well, we'll try to keep our pants on, old-timer." The old man just got in his truck and drove off. Didn't even say goodbye. We all had a good laugh about it. Small town spook stories. It added to the fun. We found our cabin easy. It was a dump, honestly. 1 room, 2 bunk beds, a wood stove, and a bare bulb hanging from a wire in the ceiling. But it was cheap and close to the water. We cracked open some beers, threw our sleeping bags on the bunks, and sat around the little fire pit outside, just bullshitting, telling stories, talking about work, the usual. It was around midnight when we heard the first scream. It was far off, echoing across the lake. We all stopped talking, listened. It came again, a woman's scream, long and high-pitched. Then it just cut off. "The hell was that?" Kyle whispered. He was the nervous one in the group. "Probably a bobcat," Mike said. "Sounds just like a woman screaming. I've heard it before." "Sounded pretty human to me," I said. We all sat there for a minute, staring into the dark. Nothing else happened. Eventually, we wrote it off as an animal and went back to our beers, but the mood was different. No one was laughing as loud. We turned in around 1. I took the bottom bunk. I was tired from the drive, but sleep didn't come easy. The wind was picking up, making the trees scratch against the side of the cabin. Then I heard something else. Footsteps. Slow, heavy crunching on the gravel outside. I held my breath. They stopped right outside our door. I waited for a knock. Nothing. Just silence. Then the doorknob slowly started to turn. Click, click. It was locked, thank God. Whoever it was just stood there for what felt like forever. Then the footsteps moved away. I didn't wake the guys. I told myself it was the park ranger checking on something, or just another camper who was lost. I didn't sleep much after that. The next morning, I didn't say anything. Felt stupid. We packed up the canoe, loaded our gear, and paddled out onto the lake. The water was like glass. We found a good campsite on a little island a few miles in. We set up the tent, gathered firewood. It was perfect. The whole day, we forgot all about the weirdness from the night before. We fished, we swam in the freezing water, we drank beer. It was exactly what we needed. As the sun started to go down, we were sitting around the new fire. That's when Kyle said he had to take a leak. He walked maybe 20 feet into the tree line. We heard him zip his pants. Then we heard him yelp and come crashing back out of the woods, white as a ghost. "There's something back there," he said, pointing. "A bear?" Dave asked, grabbing the big hunting knife he'd brought. "No," Kyle said, his voice shaking. I don't know. Go look." Mike and I grabbed flashlights and walked over. It was a shallow grave, fresh dirt piled up, and sticking out of the dirt was a hand, a woman's hand with a silver ring on her finger. My stomach dropped. It wasn't an animal, it wasn't a trick, it was real. "We have to go," I said, "right now." We ran back to the fire. "Pack up," I said, "we're leaving." "In the dark?" Dave said. "Are you crazy?" "There's a body back there," I yelled. "We're not staying here." We started shoving stuff into bags, frantic. That's when we heard it, a whistle from the main shoreline across the water. Then another whistle, closer, from the island next to ours. And then one from behind us, deep in the woods on our own island. We were surrounded. "Get in the canoe," Mike whispered. We dragged the canoe to the water. We were pushing it in when a man stepped out of the trees onto the rocky shore. He was just a silhouette against the dark water. He didn't say a word. He just stood there, watching us. We jumped in and started paddling like maniacs. We were maybe 20 feet from shore when the first rock hit the canoe. It smashed into the side right between me and Dave. Then another and another. They were coming from everywhere, throwing with incredible force. One caught Kyle right in the back of the head. He made a sickening grunt and slumped forward into the bottom of the boat. The canoe was taking on water. We were gonna sink. Dave was screaming, paddling with one hand. I was trying to bail water with a plastic container. Another rock hit me in the shoulder, and I thought my arm was broken. The pain was blinding. We were maybe 50 yards from the island when the canoe finally went under. The cold water hit me like a punch. I was thrashing, trying to swim. I saw Dave go under and not come back up. I looked for Mike, but I couldn't see him. I just swam. I swam until my arms and legs burned. I swam until I couldn't feel him anymore. I don't know how long I was in the water. I just remember the cold and the dark and the sound of my own gasping breath. Eventually, my feet hit the muddy bottom. I crawled out onto the main shore, right near where we had launched that morning. I collapsed in the mud. When the sun came up, I walked. I walked for hours until I found a road. A park ranger found me half dead in shock. They sent a team to the islands. They found Kyle's body. They found Dave's body. They never found Mike. They also found 5 more bodies in shallow graves on those islands, all campers, all reported missing over the last 2 years. And they never found who did it. The police think it was a group of people living wild in the woods, squatters or worse. They just disappeared. I spent 3 days in the hospital. When I got out, the police gave me a bag with my stuff they'd found on the shore. My wallet, my keys. My phone was dead. I charged it in the car on the way home. When it turned on, I had a voicemail from Mike. It was time-stamped from 3 in the morning, the night we capsized. I listened to it. It was just static at first, then breathing, then a voice. It wasn't Mike's voice. It was a whisper, low and rough, like rocks grinding together. It said one sentence, and then the message ended. It said, "We know your face now."
My wife, Sarah, had been talking about this weekend for months, a digital detox at a remote farmhouse in the Texas Hill Country. No phones, no laptops, just us. It was supposed to be romantic, reconnect, our 5th anniversary. She found this place online, a restored homestead from the 1800s on a huge piece of land. The reviews were perfect, secluded, quiet, beautiful views. We drove out there on a Friday afternoon. The last 15 miles were on a dirt road, winding through dry hills covered in scrub oak and cactus. The farmhouse was exactly like the pictures, an old stone building with a tin roof, a big porch, and a hot tub on the deck. The nearest neighbor was at least 5 miles away. Sarah loved it instantly. I did too, honestly. It felt like our own private world. The property had a guest house too, about 100 yards from the main house, a smaller stone building, looked older. The owner, a guy named Earl who met us with the keys, told us it was locked up, had old farm equipment in it. "Don't worry about that one," he said, nodding toward it. "Been locked for years. Termites." He handed us the keys, told us to have a good time, and drove off in his dusty pickup. That first night was perfect. We grilled steaks, sat in a hot tub, and watched the stars. There's no light pollution out there, so the sky is just packed with them. We went to bed early, real early. It was the best sleep I'd had in months. I woke up around 2 in the morning. I don't know why. I just opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling. The room was pitch black. Then I heard it. A scraping sound from outside, like something heavy being dragged across the gravel. I laid there, listening. It stopped. Then it started again, slow. Scrape. Pause. Scrape. I got up real quiet so I wouldn't wake Sarah. I went to the window and peeked through the curtain. The moon was bright enough to see. I looked toward the guest house. The door was open. I stared at it for maybe 10 minutes, trying to remember if it had been open before. I was sure it was locked. Earl had pointed at it, said it was locked. But now there was just a black rectangle where the door should be. I watched for maybe 10 minutes. Nothing moved. I finally went back to bed, telling myself the wind must have blown it open. Old latch, probably.
The next day, we didn't talk about it. We went for a hike, explored a dry creek bed, had a picnic. It was great. But I kept looking over at that guest house. The door was still open. In the daylight, I could see it was just hanging there, slightly ajar. I walked over to it. The wood was old and gray. I pushed the door. It creaked open. Inside, it was empty. Just a dirt floor and some old wooden shelves on the walls. No termites, no equipment, nothing. Just an empty room. I felt stupid for being creeped out. I closed the door as best I could and went back to Sarah. That night, we were sitting on the porch, playing cards by lantern light. It was around 11. Sarah was beating me as usual. Then we heard it. A knock. It wasn't at our door. It was a single loud knock. From the guest house. Sarah looked at me. "What was that?" "I don't know," I said. "Probably an animal. Raccoon, maybe." Another knock, louder this time, and then another, a steady rhythm. Knock, knock, knock. It wasn't random. It was deliberate, like someone was hitting the wall from the inside. Sarah grabbed my arm. "Someone's in there, Jake." "There's no one in there," I said, trying to sound calm. "It's empty." We looked. Knock, knock, knock. We just sat there, frozen. The knocking went on for maybe 2 minutes. Then it stopped. The silence after was even worse. I grabbed the big flashlight we'd brought and a heavy cast iron skillet from the kitchen. "Stay here," I said. "Lock the door behind me. If you hear anything at all, you get in the car and you drive. You don't wait for me." She started to argue, but I was already out the door. I walked across the yard toward the guest house, my heart pounding. The beam in the flashlight was shaking. I got to the door. It was closed again. I pushed it, and it swung open. I shined the light inside. Empty. Dirt floor. Wooden shelves. Nothing. No one. I walked all the way around the outside of the building. Nothing. No footprints. No broken windows. Nothing. I went back to the house. Sarah was crying. "I heard it, Jake. I heard it from in here. It was right outside this door." I held her. "There's nothing there." I checked. "It's an old building settling. The wood expands and contracts at night. It makes noises." We didn't sleep much. We just laid there, holding each other, listening. But the rest of the night was quiet.
The next morning, we decided to leave early. We were both spooked, and the whole romantic getaway thing was ruined. We packed up our stuff. I called Earl to tell him we were heading out. No answer. Left a voicemail. We loaded the car. I was locking up the main house when Sarah said, "Jake, look." She was pointing at the guest house. The door was wide open again, but this time there was something different. On the ground just inside the doorway was a small pile of bones. Bird bones, maybe. And next to them, a dirty, rusted hunting knife. My blood went cold. That wasn't settling. That wasn't an animal. "Get in the car," I said. "Now." We got in and I started driving. I hauled ass down that dirt road, kicking up a huge cloud of dust. I was going too fast, but I didn't care. I just wanted to get to a main road, to cell service, to call the police. We were maybe 5 miles from the farmhouse when I saw the truck. It was parked sideways across the road, blocking it completely. Earl's dusty pickup. I slammed on the brakes. We skidded to a stop just a few feet from his door. He was standing there, leaning against the hood. He wasn't smiling. I rolled down my window. "Earl, what the hell? Move your truck. Something's wrong back there." He just looked at me. His eyes were dead. "I know," he said. "You weren't supposed to leave." Then he reached behind his back and pulled out a shotgun. I didn't think. I just stomped on the gas. The car lurched forward and smashed into the side of his truck. Sarah screamed. Metal crunched. I threw it in reverse, backed up, and then gunned it again, this time aiming for the gap between his truck and the ditch. We scraped along the side, branches and rocks flying, and then we were through. I looked in the rearview mirror. Earl was just standing there, watching us go. He didn't even try to shoot. We made it to a gas station about 20 minutes later. I called 911. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the phone. The police went out there. They found the bones, human bones, in a shallow grave behind the guest house. They found 3 bodies, all campers or hikers who'd been reported missing over the last 2 years. They found Earl, too. He was sitting in his kitchen waiting for them. He confessed to everything. He said he liked the isolation. He said people who came to his property were guests, and sometimes guests overstay their welcome. At the trial, they asked him why he let us go. He just smiled and said, "I didn't. They got lucky." But here's the thing. After we moved, after the trial was over, I started getting letters, no return address, postmarked from small towns all over Texas. They'd just say one thing: "You forgot something at the guest house." And inside the envelope would be a small bone, a bird bone, every time. We've moved 3 times since then, changed our numbers. The letters keep coming. Sarah doesn't sleep through the night anymore. She just stares at the window. I don't know who's sending them. Earl is in prison for life. I checked, so it's not him. But someone knows, and they want us to remember.
I'm not a guy who believes in signs. Never was. When my girlfriend Brittany said she booked us a weekend at this fancy new resort in the Smoky Mountains, I was all for it. We needed a break. Both of us had been working crazy hours, and our relationship was starting to feel like we were just roommates who sometimes argued about money. The place was called Raven's Ridge. It was this old lodge that got bought out and remodeled by some big hotel company. The pictures online were insane. Huge stone fireplaces, a massive outdoor hot spring pool, views for miles. And it was cheap, like suspiciously cheap for a place that nice. Brittany said it was an off-season deal. I didn't question it. We drove up on Friday night. The last 20 minutes of the drive was straight up a mountain on a winding road with no guardrails. Brittany loved it. I just focused on not driving us off a cliff. We pulled into the parking lot around 9. The place was packed. Every spot was taken except for one near the back, right next to a beat-up old truck. We checked in. The guy at the front desk was young, maybe 19, with acne and a nervous smile. He couldn't find our reservation at first, typed our name in 3 times. Then he found it. His face changed, just for a second, a flicker of something. Worry? Surprise? Then he smiled again. "Found you," he said. "Last room available, second floor, end of the hall. Enjoy your stay." Last room, end of the hall. I didn't think anything of it. The room was fine. Clean, big bed, a bathroom with those little soaps. Brittany was tired from the drive, so she crashed pretty quick. I sat by the window for a while, looking out at the parking lot. I could see the pool area. No one was in it, but the water was steaming. Looked nice. I was about to close the curtain when I noticed the truck next to our car, the old beat-up one. A man was sitting in the driver's seat, just staring up at the hotel, staring right at our window. I couldn't see his face, just the shape of his head in the dark. I watched for a minute. He didn't move, not an inch. I closed the curtain and went to bed, told myself it was nothing. The next morning, we went down for the free breakfast. The place was buzzing. Families, couples, old people. Everyone seemed happy. We got our food and sat at a little table by the window. That's when I noticed something weird. People were looking at us, not in a friendly way. They'd glance over, then look away fast. A woman whispered something to her husband, and he turned and stared at me with this blank expression until I looked back. I asked Brittany if she noticed it. She said I was being paranoid. "You're just not used to being around people," she said. Maybe she was right. We spent the day hiking. It was beautiful. Warm sun, cool breeze. We took a million pictures. By the time we got back to the hotel, it was almost dark. We were exhausted. We grabbed dinner at the hotel restaurant. Same thing happened. People staring, whispering. The waitress, an older lady with gray hair, was nice to us, but she kept looking over her shoulder, like she was worried about something.
After dinner, we went to the hot spring pool. It was amazing. The water was perfect and the stars were just starting to come out. We had it all to ourselves. We were relaxing, floating, when I heard something. Footsteps on the stone path. I looked up. It was the guy from the truck, the one who had been staring at our window. He was walking toward the pool. He was older, maybe 60, with a dirty flannel shirt and a beard. He stopped at the edge of the pool and just looked at us. "You're in 217, he said. It wasn't a question. I stood up in the water. "Yeah, so?" He shook his head. "You need to leave. Tonight. Don't wait for morning." Brittany laughed, a nervous laugh. "Excuse me?" He just looked at her, then back at me. "They do this every season. Bring in one couple, put them in that room, and then something happens. Something always happens. Last year, it was a car accident on the mountain road. Year before that, a husband went hiking and never came back. It's always the ones in 217. "This is crazy," Brittany said. She got out of the pool and grabbed her towel. "Let's go inside." The man didn't move. "I'm not crazy. My daughter was in that room 2 years ago. She and her boyfriend. They went for a drive. Truck went off the road. They said it was an accident. It wasn't." I didn't know what to say. The guy seemed sincere, but he also seemed unhinged. Grief does that to people. "I'm sorry for your loss," I said, "but we're fine. It's just a room." He stared at me for a long moment. Then he turned and walked away, disappearing into the dark. Back in the room, Brittany was angry. That ruined the whole night. What a creep. I tried to calm her down, told her to forget about it. We watched TV for a while, then went to sleep. I woke up at 3 in the morning. The room was freezing. The heat had gone off. I got up to check the thermostat. That's when I heard it. Scratching. Coming from inside the wall, right behind the bed. I put my ear to the wall. It was faint but steady, like fingernails on wood. Then I heard something else. A voice, muffled, like from far away. It was saying something over and over. I couldn't make it out at first. I pressed my ear harder. Then I heard it. "Let me out. Let me out. Let me out." I jumped back like I'd been shocked. Brittany woke up. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," I said. "Go back to sleep." But I didn't sleep. I sat in the chair by the window, staring at the wall until the sun came up. The scratching stopped around dawn. I didn't tell Brittany. I wanted to leave, but I didn't want to look crazy. We had one more night. We could make it one more night. We spent the day at a tourist town nearby. Shopping, eating junk food. It was normal. It was good. By the time we got back to the hotel, I had almost convinced myself I imagined the whole thing. That night, we ordered pizza to the room, watched a movie. Brittany fell asleep on my shoulder. I was drifting off myself when the scratching started again, louder this time, more frantic. And the voice, clearer. "Let me out. Please let me out." I woke Brittany. "Do you hear that?" She listened. Her eyes went wide. "What is that?" Then the scratching stopped. The voice stopped, and the door handle started to rattle. Someone was trying to get in, not jiggling it, trying to force it. The whole door shook in the frame. I grabbed the phone to call the front desk. Dead. No signal. Brittany was crying, hiding behind me. The rattling got more violent. Then it stopped. Silence. We stood there, frozen, for what felt like an hour. Nothing. Eventually, we pulled the dresser in front of the door. We didn't sleep. In the morning, we packed in about 2 minutes. We were out the door before the sun was even up. We threw our bags in the car and I drove. I drove fast down that mountain road, not caring about the drop. We made it to the bottom. We made it to the main highway. We were safe. I pulled over at a gas station to finally catch my breath. Brittany was still crying. I went inside to get us some coffee. While I was waiting in line, I saw the local newspaper on the rack. The date on it was from 3 days ago. The headline said, "Search continues for missing couple." Below it was a picture of me, and a picture of Brittany. I grabbed the paper. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold it. The article said we had been reported missing 5 days ago. We never showed up to work. Our families hadn't heard from us. Our car was found parked at a trailhead in the mountains. They thought we went hiking and never came back. But we were right here, standing in a gas station. I looked at Brittany through the window. She was leaning against the car, wiping her eyes. I looked back at the paper. The date. It was from 3 days ago, but the story said we'd been missing for 5 days. I pulled out my phone. I had service now. I called my mom. She answered on the first ring, sobbing. "Where have you been? We thought you were dead." "I'm fine, Mom. We're both fine. We're at a gas station." She kept crying, telling me they had searchers out, telling me the police were involved. I told her I'd call her back. I bought the paper. I walked out to Brittany. I showed it to her. She read it, her face going pale. "How?" she whispered. I didn't have an answer. We got back in the car. I drove to the police station in the nearest town. We walked in, and the desk sergeant looked at us like he'd seen a ghost. He called his captain. They took us into a room, asked us a million questions. Where had we been? We told them, Raven's Ridge. The captain made a phone call. When he hung up, he looked confused. "Ma'am, sir," he said, "there is no Raven's Ridge. That lodge burned down 20 years ago, killed a dozen people. It's just ruins now, has been for 2 decades. I told him we had a receipt, a credit card charge. He looked at my bank statement online. There was no charge, no reservation, nothing. It was like we had just disappeared into the woods for 5 days and then walked out. They let us go. No charges, no explanation, just confusion. We drove home in silence. We don't talk about it. We broke up a month later. Too much had happened, too much we couldn't explain. But sometimes, late at night, my phone rings, just once. When I pick it up, there's no one there, just static. And then, faintly, a voice, scratching, and a whisper, "Let me out."
Me and my girlfriend Rachel were driving cross country, moving from Ohio to California. New job, new life, all that. We had a tight budget, so we couldn't afford hotels every night. We planned to camp mostly, but by the 3rd day, we were both exhausted. Dirty, sore, sick of sleeping on the ground. We needed a real bed. We were somewhere in Nevada, middle of nowhere, desert for miles. Our map showed a tiny dot called Silver Rock ahead.
We figured we'd grab dinner there, maybe find a cheap motel. The sun was going down, and the desert gets cold fast. Silver Rock was basically nothing. A gas station, a bar, and about 20 houses. That's it. We pulled into the gas station to fill up. An old sign on the door said restrooms for customers only. I went in to pay. The guy behind the counter was huge, fat, with a thick gray beard and small eyes that didn't blink enough. He stared at me the whole time I was getting my wallet out. "Passing through?" he asked. His voice was low, rough. "Yeah," I said, "heading west. Any motels around here?" He shook his head. "Nope. Closest one's 100 miles that way." He pointed toward the dark highway. My heart sank. 100 miles. We were both too tired for that. The guy must have seen my face fall. He leaned on the counter. "Look, my sister runs a little bed and breakfast about 5 miles down the road. Real cheap. She takes travelers sometimes. You want, I can call her, see if she's got room." I should have said no. I should have thanked him and driven the 100 miles. But I was tired. Rachel was tired. The idea of a warm bed was too good to pass up. "Yeah," I said, "that'd be great. Thanks." He made the call, talked low so I couldn't hear, hung up and wrote an address on a napkin. "She's expecting you. Cash only. $50 for the night." I took the napkin, paid for the gas, got back in the car. Rachel was asleep. I didn't wake her. I just drove. The road was dirt, rough and winding with nothing but sagebrush and rocks on either side. No streetlights, no other cars, just us and the dark. After about 10 minutes, I started to wonder if I'd missed it. Then I saw a light, a single porch light way off the road. I turned down the driveway. The house was old, 2 stories, wraparound porch, peeling paint. A beat-up sedan was parked out front. An older woman stood on the porch waiting. She smiled as we pulled up, a warm smile. It made me feel better. Rachel woke up when I turned the engine off. "Where are we?" "Got us a room. Cheap. Come on." The woman introduced herself as Margaret. She was maybe 60, with gray hair and a bun and a kindly face. She showed us inside. The house was cluttered. Old furniture, doilies, religious pictures on the walls. Smelled like mothballs and soup. She led us upstairs to a small room with a double bed and a wooden chair. It was clean. That's all I cared about. "Bathrooms down the hall. Breakfast at 7. Sleep well." She closed the door. Rachel flopped onto the bed. "This is perfect. I could sleep for a week." She was out in minutes. I was tired, but something kept me awake. The quiet, maybe. It was too quiet. No cars, no wind, no bugs, just nothing. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, until I finally drifted off. I woke up to a sound, a creak, floorboards in the hallway. I looked at the clock on the nightstand, 3 in the morning. I listened. Another creak, closer, then footsteps going down the stairs, slow, deliberate. I got up, put my ear to the door. Nothing. I cracked it open and looked out. The hallway was empty, dark. At the end of the hall, a sliver of light came from under a door. Must be Margaret's room. I went back to bed, told myself it was just an old house settling.
The next morning, breakfast was on the table. Eggs, bacon, biscuits. Margaret was there, smiling. A man sat with her. Her brother, the one from the gas station. He was even bigger up close. "Hope you slept well," Margaret said. "Mostly," I said. "Heard someone moving around 3. Margaret's smile didn't change, but her eyes did. Just a flicker. "Oh, that was just my husband. He works nights, comes home late. Didn't mean to disturb you." I hadn't seen a husband. I hadn't seen anyone else in the house. I looked at the brother. He was just eating his eggs, not looking at us. We ate fast. I wanted to leave. I paid Margaret $50 in cash, and we loaded the car. As we were pulling away, I saw something in the rearview mirror. The curtain on the second floor moved. Someone was watching us. It wasn't Margaret. It was a face I didn't recognize. A man, just staring. I didn't say anything to Rachel. I just drove. We were maybe 10 miles down the road when Rachel said, "Honey, did you take my phone charger?" "No," I said. "It's in the back, right?" "I checked. It's not there. I must have left it in the room." I sighed.
forget it. We'll get another one." "It's not just the charger," she said. "My phone's dead, and my wallet. I think I left my wallet on the nightstand." I looked at her. Her face was pale. "Are you serious?" We argued for a minute. Stupid, tired argument. But we needed that wallet. ID, credit cards, cash. We had to go back. I turned the car around. We pulled into the driveway 20 minutes later. The house looked different in the daylight. Dingier, more run down. The curtains were all drawn now. No one came out to greet us. I knocked on the door. No answer. Knocked again. Nothing. "Maybe they're in the back," Rachel said. We walked around the side of the house. There was a cellar door, the kind that slants into the ground, made of wood. It was padlocked from the outside, but the lock was hanging open, like someone forgot to close it. I don't know why I opened it. Curiosity, I guess. I lifted the door. A set of stone steps led down into darkness. A smell came up, a bad smell, like rot, like death. I called out, "Hello? Margaret?" No answer, just the smell. I should have walked away, called the cops, but I had to know. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and went down the steps. Rachel stayed at the top, telling me to come back. The basement was dirt floor, low ceiling, old shelves with canning jars, and in the corner, a cage, a big metal cage like for a large dog. The door was open. Inside the cage was a mattress, filthy, stained, and on the mattress, a woman's wallet, Rachel's wallet. My blood turned to ice. I grabbed it and ran up those stairs so fast I nearly fell. I grabbed Rachel's arm. "Get in the car, now!" We ran. We jumped in, and I floored it, spraying gravel. We were maybe 50 feet down the driveway when a truck pulled across the entrance, blocking it. The brother's beat-up truck. He got out. He had a rifle. I didn't stop. I aimed the car right at him. He dove out of the way at the last second. We smashed through a fence and bounced onto the main road, tires screaming. I didn't look back. I just drove. We made it to the next town, found a police station. I was shaking so bad I could barely talk. I told them everything. The house, the cage, the smell, the brother with the rifle. They sent cars out there. 2 hours later, a detective came to talk to us. His face was grim. He told us they found the house empty. Margaret and her brother were gone. The husband was gone. But they found the basement. They found the cage. They found evidence that people had been kept there, held prisoner. For how long, they didn't know. And they found bodies, buried in the desert behind the house. 3 of them so far. Travelers, people passing through who never made it to where they were going. The detective looked at me. "You're lucky," he said. "Real lucky. That padlock on the cellar door, it wasn't open by accident. They must have been bringing someone new down there. You interrupted them, scared them off." I thought about that face in the window, the man watching us leave. He wasn't watching us. He was waiting for his turn in the cage. They never caught them. Margaret, the brother, the husband, they vanished, probably running the same scam somewhere else. Different town, different house, different faces, preying on tired people, people looking for a cheap place to sleep. We made it to California. I got the job. Rachel and I were still together, but we don't travel anymore. We don't stay in strange places. And every time I see a kind face, an old woman offering help, a friendly stranger, I get cold, because I know now that monsters don't always hide in the dark. Sometimes they invite you in for breakfast.